All right, welcome, kings and queens, y'all. Today we are talking the death of a 20-year-old Southern University student in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Can we pause? Can we pause as a community? Y'all, we've got to talk. Um, wow, this has completely blown my mind as a member of the Divine Nine, as a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. One thing I can tell you for a fact is no one ever abused me. No one ever abused each other, and we did not abuse the new pledges. This crap has gotten completely out of hand, and we've got to talk about it. I spare no mercy. I spare no grace for the offenders. And according to recent reports in the news, there's 3 of them. How do you punch somebody in the chest with all of your might and then refuse them medical attention to the point where you changed his clothes? You denied him access to medical treatment, changed his clothes, came up with the lie, took him to the hospital, and walked that lie out like a dog. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. And, I fall very close to the line of saying, do we hate ourselves? Do we hate ourselves that much? We got to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about it. I'm not going to hold back. Feel free to tap in, pull up in the chat. If this is a very sensitive conversation for you, because everybody can't handle the reality of what's happening in the world. Everybody some people aren't built to really talk about what these kids are up to and what some of your children are up to and how you're failing them. And when you fail them, you actually fail us, and you fail our children and their children. And we got to talk about it, Black folks, and anybody else that's tuned in. All right. For those of you who are just tuned in, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the palace. I am Queen Sheba. I cover a variety of hot topics specific to reality television, but most importantly, I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience.
Subscribe now.
All right, so what I would like to do is I would like to bring you up to speed, because not everybody is familiar with this case. Okay, this has been ongoing for weeks. And I want to bring you up to speed and then get into where we are currently with the investigation, if that's okay with everybody. All right, so 20-year-old Southern University student, his name is Caleb Wilson. He died on February 27th, y'all. We're talking about 2 weeks ago. No, a little bit over 2.5 weeks ago, unfortunately. Okay. Currently, his murder, because that's what it is. I don't give a damn who's tuned in, how you feel about it. His murder, and those are my words, and I'm pulling this from CBS News. Anything that I insert that is not directly from CBS News, or I'm paraphrasing, I will make sure to let you know. It's being investigated by local law enforcement as a possible act of fraternity hazing. Now, since then, they've upgraded the charges, but they've upgraded the phrases and the wording of this heinous act, but I'll come back to that. Caleb Wilson died on February 27th. He was a mechanical engineering junior. He was a junior. He had 1 year to go at Southern University and AM College, and a member of the school's marching band. Oh my God, he was amazing. A member of the marching band. Chancellor John K. Pierre said in a statement shared on the college's Facebook page that an off-campus incident is believed to have contributed to Caleb's death. A university spokesperson confirmed on Wednesday that an alleged fraternity ritual abuse, we're not going to call it a ritual, we're not going to even give them the niceties and the pleasantries, so that an alleged fraternity abusive behavior involving Omega Psi Phi is being investigated. Ricky L. Lewis, the international president of Omega Psi Phi, said in a written statement issued on Friday that the organization is aware that authorities have launched an investigation into this tragic incident, and we fully support their efforts to seek the truth. Well, we appreciate that. He goes on to say, we recognize that many of you have questions, and we are actively working to gather accurate information, Lewis said. It was unclear if Wilson was a fraternity member. He was pledging. Caleb was pledging. He didn't even cross over yet. So at this point, this article, I'm just bringing you up to speed. It then goes on to say additional details, including Wilson's cause of death, were not available. Police in Baton Rouge have not commented commented on the investigation. Wilson's family described him as an extraordinary person and a bright and talented young man with a promising future ahead of him. We are committed to seeking the truth about the circumstances surrounding Caleb's passing and ensuring that no other family has to endure such a tragedy, the family said. Wilson was a trumpet player with the marching band known as the Human Jukebox, which recently played at the Super Bowl. Man, oh man, oh man. In a statement on the band's Facebook page, Wilson was described as a talented, dedicated, and bright soul who poured his passion into his studies and music. It gets worse, but let's take a pause. A talented trumpet player, a dedicated student, and a bright soul, Caleb was a mechanical engineering major who poured his passion into both his studies and his time with the Human Jukebox. The post read, his energy, spirit, and impact on those around him will never be forgotten. You know what breaks my heart? You know what breaks my heart is that when we pass and when something tragic like this happens, you're dwindled down to a paragraph on social media, if you're lucky. If you're lucky. Let's continue. During the band's performance at one of New Orleans' Mardi Gras parades over the weekend, members played Stevie Wonder's Love, Light, and Flight in honor of Wilson. This was more than just a performance. It was a tribute, a farewell, and a promise that Caleb's legacy will live on. The band posted on Facebook, along with the video of the performance. A vigil celebrating Wilson was held on Wednesday evening. Wilson's family and friends addressed the crowd. His light does not die with himself. It dies with all of us. We have to make sure his light lives within all of us and make sure that you stand up tall like he's on your shoulders and reaching for the sky. Very beautiful tribute from the family. Now, according to this article from CBS News, following Wilson's death, the historically Black university indefinitely halted all club recruiting activities, including those related to Greek life. Halted? Remove the shit from the campus. Let's wrap it up. Let's be done. Send a strong message. Halted? Recruiting? On Tuesday, the university announced its own internal investigation, the student judiciary process into the alleged hazing incidents. The university statement said that any organization on campus that breaches anti-hazing policies will face prompt disciplinary sanctions. They don't care. They don't care. The penalties are not stiff enough because they take these young kids that want nothing more to be a part of these fraternities and sororities. They scare them to death and they beat on them as if they are slave masters. The evil of it all, to me, it's a projection of self-hate. Don't argue with me. You can argue with me. Be respectful. But I'm just being facetious intentionally, because this does not make sense. And it sort of reminds me of the Shanquilla Robinson case. We're going to get into the thick of it. Southern University requires clubs and organizations to undergo anti-hazing training. In 2008, following the death of Max Groover, a Louisiana State University student who died of alcohol poisoning after a hazing ritual at Phi Delta Theta Fraternity House, then Governor John Bel Edwards signed into state several anti-hazing laws meant to curb hazing and increase penalties, and it has done absolutely nothing. We're not working hard enough. We're not talking loud enough, and we're not coming down with the hammer as we should. I don't give a damn about who it is, who the offender is. If they do some BS like this, you lock them up and you call a thing a thing. It is an evil act. There is no excuse for it. You can't clean it up. You can't dress it up. And we're going to talk about it here in the palace. Now, let me bring you up to speed. Since that initial release by CBS News actually updated us a few days ago. And what the article says is one arrest has been made and more, y'all, more. The fuck? More are expected in connection with the death of 20-year-old Southern University student after an off-campus fraternity hazing ritual. How bad did they beat this child? Baton Rouge Police Department Chief Thomas Morris Jr. told reporters at a briefing that Caleb died as a direct result of a hazing incident where he was punched in the chest multiple times while pledging Omega Psi Phi Fraternity. You know what sits at your chest? Your heart. Punched in the chest multiple times. And let me tell you how I believe this may have worked. If it was multiple times, I believe it was inflicted by different individuals taking time to beat him as if he was a wild animal. They took times beating him. I don't even want to dress it up. They took times beating him, punching him in the chest where his heart sits. Listen, let's continue. Listen. Caleb McCrae. So unfortunately, the victim, his name is Caleb. And the offender, his name is Caleb, one of the offenders. Caleb McCrae, 23, was arrested Thursday evening and faces charges of manslaughter and criminal hazing in the death of Wilson, a mechanical engineering junior at the school who died late February. McCrae is a former Southern University student, according to CBS News affiliate WAFP. Let me tell you what's going on with that. He had no business being on campus dealing with those undergraduates. How did his overgrown ass get looped into the activities of the current students? Huh? How did he? That's why they pulled it off campus, y'all. That's why they made the boy come off campus. Because Caleb McCrae, 23, a former student, sounds like he was the aggressor. Sounds like either he was I don't even know if he graduated. Just former student. He may not have finished, okay? Because it's possible you can pledge and then not finish. So here he is taking advantage of the younger students on campus by luring them off and beating them. East Baton Rouge District Attorney Hiller Moore says 2 additional people who have not been publicly identified will be charged with misdemeanor hazing. Why misdemeanors? Just out of curiosity. Wilson had been taking part in an off-campus and unsanctioned fraternity ritual, WAFB reported. Other pledges and members of the fraternity were present. Nobody called 911 or attempted to summon an ambulance to the location. Nobody. Not the offenders, not the pledgees, y'all. Nobody. But we quick to holler, Black Lives Matter. We quick to holler, respect us. We're human. But when it comes to each other, we will sit by and watch each other get beat to death and don't think to say, fuck this. No, I'm not going to sit here and watch this. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call an ambulance. I'm going to render aid. No one did anything. And let me tell you something. I don't give a damn. There is no excuse for that. There is no excuse. If you've ever watched somebody take their last breath, there is no excuse to sit there and watch that and not feel compelled to overcome your fear, your hesitation, your anxiety, to jump in and do or say something. Let's continue. Wilson and 8 others pledging the fraternity were punched by McCrae and at least 2 other individuals wearing boxing gloves, according to a police arrest warrant affidavit reviewed by the Associated Press. They put on boxing gloves and went at it with these younger kids, these younger men. And we wonder why. We're filled with so much rage, anger. This is supposed to be a beautiful moment, not one where you get beat to be a part of a team, to be a part of a community. Let's continue. After McCrae punched Wilson 4 times in the chest, probably with all his might, Wilson collapsed to the floor, becoming unresponsive. The affidavit states, oh my God, Wilson appeared to suffer a seizure and lose control of his bodily function. Keep in mind, nobody rendered aid. Nobody called authorities. Nobody called an EMT. Nobody called 911. No signs of trauma were found on Wilson's body except for a small bruise on the right side of his chest. The East Baton Rouge Parish Coroner's office was awaiting the results of additional testing but didn't know when those would be complete. Chief of Investigations Shane Tyndall said McCrae had no intention. Listen, now they're about to piss me off. McCrae had no intention to cause death or great bodily harm to Wilson, the police affidavit says. Now they're about to piss me off. You had no intention, but you hit him with all your might 4 times in the chest where the heart sits. Get the hell out of here. I'm not feeling sorry for his behind. A group of men brought Wilson to the hospital and said he had collapsed while playing basketball at a park, Morse said. The group left the hospital before police arrived, dropped him off like a dog on the side of the road, and left. Didn't have the decency, the respect. How are you raising your kids? For some of you that are tuned in, didn't have the decency, the respect. See, the Bible says, train a child in the way he should go, and he will not depart from it. How are you raising your children? To stand out as a leader and not a follower. Not one said namaste. Everybody punked out and ran. And let's call it what it is. A bunch of punks ran. Didn't have a decency to see him through his final moments. And lied. Came up with an elaborate lie. Morse said over a dozen people were interviewed as a part of the investigation. He could not say whether those who lied about what happened to Wilson will face charges. They should. They should. Because you are an accessory to a crime. You could have intervened, not to say that they could have saved his life, but you could have intervened. You could have told the truth. What about Black love? Come on. What are we talking about? Yeah, they should, in my opinion. What are your thoughts? McCrae's attorney, Philip Robinson, said his client deserves due process and asked the public to withhold. Sir, sir, and asked the public to withhold rushing to judgment until all evidence is heard. In an email statement, McCrae and his family declined to comment. Robinson said, sir, you have your nerves. Asking the public, we ain't saving these motherfuckers in 2025. If your client has the wherewithal to premeditate and put on a pair of boxing gloves and do not consider the outcome of possibly punching somebody in a chest 4 times, that was him. He hit him 4 times. He dealt the final blows. We're not even talking about the rest of them that went before him. Okay? No, we're not taking it lightly on him. I'm not. I pray for justice to the full extent of the law. What about those of you tuned in? Now, it says in Louisiana, hazing can be a felony under the Max Groover Act, which passed in 2018 and was named after a Louisiana State University who died of alcohol poisoning after hazing at Phi Delta Theta Fraternity House. Okay, then they go on to talk about the penalties and the fines. They also, the article states that Omega Psi Phi could face civil penalties under the act, as they should. And I'm a Delta, and those are my fraternity brothers, but I don't care. I don't care. It's only right. It's fair. An innocent life was lost. The fraternity's campus chapter has been ordered to cease all activities, and students involved in Wilson's death could face expulsion. They should be effective immediately. What are we waiting on, Black folks? What are we waiting on, community? What are we waiting on? Why are we waiting to take a stand to send a strong message that Black on Black crime, Black on Black abuse, Black on Black whatever will not be tolerated? We would call for immediate action if this was done to an African American young male. If this was inflicted upon him and he was joining a white fraternity and they punched him in his chest, we would be calling it a hate crime. I need us to keep the same energy when it comes to our own inflicting harm, pain, and death on our own. Keep that same energy. We're not giving passes. We're not going to sit back and watch and hope and pray and give grace and not be too hard. No, we're coming full throttle, full speed ahead. I don't know. They should have already been expelled, in my opinion. What are your thoughts? It says all campus Greek life organizations are barred from taking on any additional members through the remainder of the academic year, he added. That is not anything special. That is a slap on the wrist. It's an embarrassment to the shit that we protest about. To me, it says we don't take anything serious outside of line dancing and inviting folks to a cookout. The school has conducted its own internal investigation and student judiciary process. Okay, we already read that. Omega Sci-Fi did not immediately respond to a request for a comment. They should have. They should have been all over it. They did gather the students, and hundreds of students and alumni staff and state leaders gathered for a vigil Wednesday night honoring. That does nothing. Us showing up to dance and play music, that does nothing. And I'm kind of tired of it. It's after the fact. You know what would have been beautiful? If somebody would have intervened before. I'm tired of our delayed response to shit. We sit back, we watch, and then we show up with music and tributes and food. That does nothing to the lives that are lost to senseless abuse, crimes, you name it. That does nothing. We've got to do better. We've got to do better. Friends and family took turns telling stories about Wilson, who by a number of accounts was joyous, bright, talented, and driven. Wilson was a member, of course, I said, of the university's famous human jukebox marching band. His light does not die with him. Of course, his family said that. I read that before. This is just so unfortunate. This was so unfortunate. Y'all, it goes a little bit deeper. So the guy that they arrested, according to recent reports, they said the members of Southern University Omega Psi chapter waited several minutes to take him to the hospital after he suffered a medical emergency. During a hazing event off campus, the men changed his clothes, y'all, and told that big ass lie that he collapsed after being struck in the chest while playing basketball. The sociopathic tendencies of it all. The changing of the clothes is as low as you can go. I'm telling you, some of you are raising monsters. Some of you are enabling monsters. You have no idea who your children are. And if you do, you give them a pass and you coddle them. No, 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 no. Don't tell me not to say it. Because somebody's raising these monsters. Somebody's raising these monsters. They're not just being dropped out of nowhere on this earth. These are somebody's sons and daughters. Somebody's raising these kids to not say anything, to not be helpful to your brother and your sister in distress. Somebody. They've learned it somewhere. Oh, let's go as far as changing his clothes. He's not breathing. He's lost the ability to control his bodily functions, but you know what? I'm going to get him dressed up. I'm going to change his clothes. I'm going to tell the people that he was playing basketball. Oh my, these are somebody's children. You should be sick, disgusted with the turn of events that we're seeing in real time in the world. We should be. I am. I hope you are. Let me continue on. They say more information about the tragic death of university student Caleb Wilson was revealed Friday in the arrest warrant for one of the men in connection with the incident. The warrant witnesses spoke with police and said that the pledges of Omega Psi Phi fraternity changed into gray sweatpants. So when they arrived at the warehouse, they made them change into gray sweatpants when they arrived. Why? I wonder what was the I wonder what was the reasoning behind that. That's what I need authorities to ask. Why did you make them change? I know it may not seem significant, but everything is significant in this case. We need to know the pathology of these people. We need to know the intent, every intent from steps A, B, C, D. Why did they all need to change in gray sweatpants? Okay. I'm curious about that. Inside the warehouse waiting were members of the fraternity wearing boxing gloves. The men lined the pledges up, and each one was hit 4 times in the chest. Witnesses told police that Wilson was in the back of the line and was punched over 4 times in his chest by Caleb McCrae, causing him to have a medical emergency and collapse to the ground. He punched him with all his might. What's interesting about this is that a 911 call was never made. Do we value our own lives? Or is it just something we say when we're being unalived by other races? What's interesting about this is that a 911 call was never made. The men moved the pledges to another room in the warehouse while a few other members monitored the situation with Wilson. Not one pledge decided, I'm out of here. You know what that comes from? Home training, wherewithal, fearlessness, masculinity. I'm out of here. No, I ain't got to stay. You ain't going to do ish to me. I'm out of here. I don't care. Attack me. I'm out of here. Not one. Because if it's a group of them, they could have left together. Group mentality. You get what I'm saying? I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience. On Friday, Chief of Police Thomas Moore said in a news conference that several minutes went by. How many? I need you to be specific, sir. Several minutes went by before the men decided to take Wilson to the emergency room. In the warrant, it says the men who brought him to the hospital told Wilson, okay, we know that he collapsed after being hit in the chest while playing basketball. It also notes that the men changed Wilson's clothes before he was brought to the hospital. Wilson police later uncovered what really happened after speaking to witnesses, and that the incident happened at a warehouse. When they went to the site, they found a pair of boxing gloves inside. So they accidentally, I'm guaranteeing you, they probably accidentally forgot those gloves behind. The warrant on Friday was issued for Caleb McCray in connection with Wilson's death. He's been charged with criminal hazing and manslaughter. 2 more people could be charged as well as the investigation is ongoing. I need him to receive the max. I need him to receive the max. I do. This is very unfortunate. This could have been avoided. But you know what? We got too many sassy men that want to flex on others, take advantage of people's people's youth, flex, abuse you just to make you feel like a man. We're out of control. We pop off. We lack emotional intelligence. You got people on YouTube threatening to take other people's lives. I'm sick of y'all. We should be sick of each other. The only way we can problem solve is by putting your hands on somebody, threatening to unalive somebody, popping off, pulling up on social media, running around like wild animals. This is pure evil. And it all starts at home. That which you mimic to your children, they will take outside the home. They will not do as you say. They will do as you do. This is so unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. We're asking that you keep the family of Caleb Wilson in your prayers. They said that when his father went to his son's apartment after his passing, his human jukebox uniform was laid out on his bed to perform in the Mardi Gras parade. He expected to return home that day. He thought he would just, he probably didn't know what to expect, didn't think that would be his last day on earth, had his uniform laid out, organized, responsible, planned ahead to come home to perform in Mardi Gras. And his life was taken by another Black man. Make it make sense.